Welcome to today's explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be sharing this one with you. Today, we're going to completely strip away the complex math and those dizzying equations to take a deep dive into Thomas Sowell's iconic book, Basic Economics. Even if you consider yourself a seasoned policy wonk, Sowell's work is a masterclass in clear, real-world economic thinking. By looking at straightforward historical context, he takes the hidden, kind of messy complexities of how a society functions and translates them into a common-sense guide. It really reveals the actual nuts and bolts mechanics driving our world. So here is our game plan for today. We're going to tackle this using a zoom-out framework. First, the foundation of scarcity. Second, markets and government roles. Third, the global economy. Fourth, income, wealth, and reality. And finally, number 5, policies and their consequences. All right, let's jump right in with section 1, the foundation of scarcity. To wrap our heads around everything else we're going to discuss today, we really have to start at the absolute bedrock. And surprisingly enough, economics isn't actually about money at all. It's about resources. Sowell introduces us to inescapable realities here: scarcity and opportunity cost. Scarcity just means resources are finite, right? You can't magically print more land, raw materials, or time. And because of that, every single choice demands a sacrifice, and that is your opportunity cost. Think about it. If you spend your evening watching this explainer, your opportunity cost is that new streaming show you aren't watching. At its core, economics is truly the study of these necessary trade-offs. This idea perfectly illustrates our core societal tension. Imagine a giant scale. On one side of the ledger, we have what we actually possess in reality: limited, finite resources. But on the other side, we have what we desire, which is completely unlimited human wants. It's a permanent imbalance. And since we can never have enough to satisfy every single desire of every single person, we desperately need a highly efficient system to figure out exactly who gets what and when. And wow, this is exactly where prices come in. Sowell argues that prices aren't just arbitrary numbers slapped on a tag by greedy corporations. Not at all. They are actually a vital information network. They act like a massive, decentralized traffic light system for the entire economy. So if a resource becomes scarce, its price goes up. That red light instantly signals consumers to use less, and simultaneously flashes a green light, signaling producers to step up and make more. It's just an incredibly elegant way of coordinating millions of people without a single central planner ever needing to lift a finger. Okay, moving on to section 2, markets and government roles. Now, if we zoom out from the individual to the community level, we can see these market mechanics out in the wild. It operates in this continuous, highly responsive loop. Step 1, the forces of supply and demand are constantly clashing to ultimately determine those prices. And then, step 2, those prices ripple out, acting as immediate, actionable signals for businesses and consumers to make their very next move. It creates this constant feedback loop of efficiency, automatically guiding resources to exactly where they're valued most. Through some really fascinating historical analysis, Sowell makes a strong case for the market's profound power to self-regulate. When it's allowed to function, it is just remarkably efficient at allocating resources. But, he isn't an absolutist about it. He totally acknowledges that government intervention is entirely necessary in certain specific situations. The government plays an essential role in correcting market failures, protecting property rights, and maintaining the rule of law. However, his warning is loud and clear. History shows us over and over that over-intervention, like excessive tariffs, subsidies, or regulations, often creates far more problems than it solves. Which brings us to section 3, the global economy. Taking these mechanisms across international borders, Sowell tackles some massive global macroeconomic misconceptions head-on. For instance, he points out that trade deficits aren't necessarily a scoreboard of who is winning or losing. Often, they're simply a sign of a growing, dynamic economy that's attracting foreign investment. By examining the history of various countries and the logic of competitive advantage, he demonstrates the historically transformative power of free trade. His broader point here: interconnectedness and market liberalization genuinely allow developing and developed nations alike to thrive. Next up, section 4, income, wealth, and reality. Now we're zooming back into some of our most heated societal debates. Sowell uses empirical evidence to challenge prevailing narratives about a static wealth gap. A massive insight he brings to the table is that people rarely stay in the exact same income bracket their entire lives. Instead of just looking at abstract economic classes, he points us toward dynamic, real-world factors that actually drive mobility. Things like education, individual work habits, and the structure of government policies. Grasping these specific drivers is absolutely essential for understanding the true reality of income distribution over a human lifetime. Sowell imparts a really core argument here. Fostering economic growth is far, far more effective at improving living standards than relying primarily on wealth redistribution. Think of it like a pie. While redistributive measures aim to take the existing economic pie and just slice it differently, Sowell argues that policies enhancing growth actually bake a much larger pie, which lifts the baseline standard of living for everyone across the board. It's a really vital trade-off we have to consider when evaluating any social policy. And finally, Section 5, Policies and Their Consequences. So how do we actually apply all these principles to the policies shaping our society right now? Well, Sowell evaluates things like taxation, monetary policy, and welfare programs not through the lens of their good intentions, but their actual historical outcomes. He advocates strongly for harnessing the wealth-generating power of the market, while still carefully maintaining a necessary safety net for our most vulnerable. Crucially, he grounds all of his policy evaluation in actual human behavior and real market dynamics. Okay, if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, make it this. Much like a line of falling dominoes, we must always look past the immediate short-term results of a policy to anticipate its unintended consequences. A policy might look absolutely fantastic on paper today, but if it disrupts those vital price signals or ignores the harsh reality of scarcity we explored earlier, well, it will inevitably knock over a series of dominoes, creating massive problems down the road. True economic thinking is stage 2 thinking. Armed with an understanding of scarcity, price signals, and the reality of trade-offs, you really don't need an economics degree to see how the world works. You just need common sense. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. The very next time a massive economic policy is proposed in your community, will you judge it by its political rhetoric and its good intentions, or will you actively look for those hidden dominoes it's about to knock over? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.